151,820 wallets holding 10 to 10,000 BTC added, 79,244 BTC this week, over 11,000 Bitcoin per day. Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. Appreciate you guys as always for sticking around and showing so much love. If we're looking across the board today, we're seeing a little bit of red for some coins, but in a grand scheme of things, a lot of coins are still holding onto the green. A lot of utility projects, to be specific. Are we about to see a switch happening? Look at this. We're seeing Fartcoin down, we're seeing Bonk down, we're seeing Pepe, Shiba. What is that correlation? These are all memes, but you're starting to see utility projects really popping off right now. ICP being one of them, Maker, FET, QNT, XRP. Very, very interesting thing to note. Let me know down below what you guys think. The price of XRP at $2.25, also up 3% in BTC compared with the valuation back above 132 billion. So if you want to put this into perspective, in just the last 24 hours, so since our last update, the valuation has increased almost $3 billion, and the 24-hour trading volume at about $2.2 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So President Trump's Truth Social files for a Bitcoin ETF. Very, very interesting. Would love to know your thoughts down below. But look at this. US M2 money supply hits a new all-time high of $21.86 trillion. And we know the correlation with the M2 supply with BTC. So are we really going to see BTC following the M2 money supply and heading towards new all-time highs? As of now, the chart has been pretty much, really positively correlated. So let's see what happens. BTC still looking really, really good. I'm not writing it off, but we'll obviously, pay very, very close attention to this specific chart and, focus on, the positive correlation side of things. So we'll see what happens. But moving forward, a big thing. Trump set to speak with China's president on Friday. So are we going to hear some sort of a resolution coming out? Are we going to see some sort of an agreement coming out? If that is the case, as we know, I do personally expect that, we are going to see some excitement, within the markets, especially when, two of these big nations come up with some sort of a resolution, because, this is very, very important, because if they are still, there's no resolution, no sort of agreement, then it's still up in the air, and, that can really have an impact on the broader market. So we'll really see what happens. But look at this. Zoom says, as mentioned, I want to see XRP grab liquidity from the $2 zone. It hasn't yet. It touched 207, but not $2 exact, which again is a psychological price point. Don't get carried away. I'm cautious of this pump. So pretty much Zoom is saying everyone has their own ways of looking at the market, but pretty much Zoom is saying that, this bounce that we're seeing right now is not something that, he or she is buying, and they're still projecting, the $2 liquidity to be touched. So we'll see what happens, but we need to understand, and I'm going to obviously mention to you guys this. I can also, say that to Zoom that we are being supported by some significant support. The 207 was a significant support, and he is also talking, he or she, like I said, is talking about 207. You can see, and that's exactly the level we've been focusing so much on, and we touched right at that neckline and have seen a bounce since then. So I'm not too surprised about this specific thing. Let me know your personal thoughts down below. I can argue that, this is a positive support line for XRP, but in terms of us retesting potentially below the 38.2 down to the $2 price point, could that still be in play? Yes, of course, if Bitcoin were to, tumble more towards the downside, BTC needs to lose the 102K support line. If that's the case, then yes, I could potentially see that happening. So we'll see what happens, because as of now, BTC still having a little bit of a hard time remaining above 106K. We actually did retest that exact same resistance I talked to you guys about, but you can clearly see that was a rejection, as to be expected. So we really want to see this resistance breaking out. If it's not able to break out, I still do believe, a 102K retest is still in play. And as far as the dominance is concerned, it's still, at 64.15%, which is still quite high in a grand scheme of things. But look at this. Smoke says the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, which will finally classify qualified cryptocurrencies as commodities, is set to be considered on June 10th by the House Financial Services Committee. Remember, XRP is a radical form of commodity money. XRP was once advertised as gold in your hands and is designed to be the most liquid asset on the XRP ledger. This is documented. And moving forward, yes, XRP functions as a utility cryptocurrency, which again, without a doubt, if you understand the XRP ledger, if you understand how the XRP ledger works, you understand XRP, the native token, plays a focal, point in, the operation of the ledger itself. So no question about that, no doubts in that. Expect new guidelines to distinguish securities from utility tokens by the second half of 2025. And look at this. Austin King says Bitcoin ETFs open the door to a whole new class of investors. ETH and XRP are next. And, there's no doubt in that. If you're looking at the filings from these big giants, XRP is being filed for, for the spot ETF at record pace, because that really shows you where, this interest really lies. And, these big institutions are well aware of that. So dominance has gone down over the last few hours, but again, in a grand scheme of things, we're still sitting at 64.14%, which again is not small by any means. BTC did get rejected at the 106K, which is something that we shouldn't be surprised, because that is the level I've been speaking about. It might sound like a broken record at this point, but that is a level that, we've been watching out for. But if you're looking at the price of XRP, did make a beautiful wick up to 228. Literally, you can't make this up. Your boy has been talking about these levels. A moment of silence for all the haters that, were talking negative about XRP just around the 207, because since then it is up 10%, which again is not a small increase. 10% is still quite large. We're talking about the fourth largest asset, almost the third largest asset in the entire, market. So I like the setup. We're still in the 38.2. We are yet to lose the 38.2. So according to Zoom's analysis, we are to be, going below this. Obviously, I'm not writing it off completely as of now, but I can argue that, this 207 is a very important support line. So I'm not too surprised about that. We're going to be taking a very close look at BTC. Obviously, if Bitcoin does go down to 102K, I do expect that, we could see some downside and dominance picking up traction once again. But let me know down below what you guys think. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.